that when you go for a job interview, they will promise, and I have a lot of friends who have actually told this to me. Some of them worked for us, and then they went off, and they're head of supply chains within the companies. And they say, in the interview, we will be promised autonomy, we will be promised a lot of support. But once you've taken the job, you're back in the rut, and the traditional structures just survive. So traditional setups, structures, systems, cultures, hierarchies in many companies, they have very narrow scope for full expression of supply chain possibilities. And new companies, which do not have these legacy issues that I'm discussing, they maximize the use of supply chain management, such as business-to-business networks, and that's the topic of my book as well. So if traditional companies can, and the supply chain professionals which are working within them, they can find a way to emulate the new companies and get over those traditional barriers, then you can maximize the impact of supply chain within your company. So what do traditional companies suffer from? Let's have a quick look. Traditionally, division of labor was the mantra of industrial revolution. Basically, you divide everything and you conquer it. And that was a great mantra in the 1960s. If you produce a chair where one guy is producing one leg, other guy is producing other leg, everybody is producing different things, and one guy puts it all together, you make a chair much faster than one guy just producing the whole chair. That was the entire reasoning for division of labor. Great reasoning. Only trouble is you can carry it too far, and suddenly everybody is sitting in their silos, and suddenly now there is no integration. And that was the entire reasoning for creating supply chain management. But that integration is hampered by three things. One is traditional power structures. Now, finance has always been part of the business for thousands of years. Sales and marketing is relatively new, but not as new as supply chain management. And of course, operations is core of the business anyway. So these are the areas from where your board of directors are drawn, from your CEOs come. And of course, these are the places they favor. These are the things they think about. None of them are really from supply chain management in most traditional companies. Traditional practices, again, I was talking about division of labor versus integration. If you cannot really get over that division or excessive division of labor, there's no way you can achieve the integration. And finally, traditional knowledge related to traditional practices is a whole accumulated set of knowledge, which is still current, is taught in universities today. You go to any MBA school, they'll have 11 courses and other things, and then one course in supply chain management, which is very, very new. But universities are still discovering what is supply chain management in their own right. It's the companies which are really at the forefront of supply chain management, not the universities, unfortunately. So let's look at some of the new companies now. Unfortunately, the chart is looking quite good. So Uber is one of the new companies that I'm comparing against General Motors and Ford and Volkswagen and Honda. And the big bar is really the valuation in billions of dollars. And you can see Uber is about the same as General Motors and Ford, and perhaps even Honda. And the lines are really three things: assets, revenues, and profits. And what you are seeing here is a very simple fact, that all the other four companies have humongous amount of assets running into sometimes $200 billion, and their valuation is much lower than their asset base in some cases. Whereas Uber, which is a new company, has a much higher valuation. Now, I'm not sure how fair this evaluation for Uber is and how it's going to stay, but fact is that still there is something in there which is being valued, which is the new information age technology, information age practices, information age power structures, or in other words, absence of traditional power structures, absence of traditional knowledge, absence of traditional practices. Here's another example, which is Airbnb and Hilton Hotel. And there are other hotels there. Starwood, Hyatt, Hilton, Marriott. I used to stay in them. Now I love Airbnb. It's a beautiful site. You can actually find some very exotic places to stay in. And the valuation in this case is topping the industry now. But these are not the only companies. If you scan the business world over the last 30 years, you will see every 5 years or 10 years, there's a company which has come across and done exactly the same thing in a different way. If you look at Zara, all it does is makes clothes and sells them. Yet it achieves something like 18 fashion cycles in a year, where a typical department store in Sydney struggles to do 4. This typical departmental store, and I won't name them, in Sydney or in Australia, probably in Singapore as well, starts planning a fashion cycle 12 months in advance. And these people plan in weeks. Red Bull, they achieved global rollout in 19 years in 100 countries. Their much bigger competitors achieved that in more than, I think, 60, 69 years. And my business partner, Wolfgang Pasch, was involved in it. And he told me in 1 year he had 200 outsourcing contracts around the world that he conducted. Walmart, I mean, prior to Walmart, there was Sears, and I don't know if any of you are young enough to have gone in Sears, but I am. Oh, sorry, old enough. And very different kind of departmental store. And final example is Dell, Michael Dell. I think that's a very famous case story, where they reduced the cash-to-cash cycle from something like 56 days to -4 days, long time ago. And these are all supply chain miracles. So the key point is this. If traditional companies and the supply chain professionals working in them can find a way to emulate new companies to use the supply chain concepts, they can maximize the value significantly. And I will add to that, that not only for yourself, it's almost a duty to go and teach this to your peers, to your heads of